Fight!
Hostage and they don't fight fair. Who gon' pray for me and wipe on my tears? Who gon' save me if you not right here? Move this darkness and make my sight clear. Take me away cause I don't like here. Ghost of my past, they feeling the night air. Wake me up, I'm trapped in my nightmares. Wake me up, I'm trapped in my nightmares. Drowning, I'm off the deep end. Apparitions of all my demons. All my thoughts are committing treason. All alone, who gon' hear me screaming? Pick me up, don't let me drown.
Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to Square Reach Podcast, everybody. Today is episode number 19, I believe, and we hit a milestone. We are now at 101 subscribers. Woo!
Woo! I thought it was actually 102. When I looked earlier today, I thought it said 102.
It could be. I didn't. Only 103 now.
Oh, there we go.
Oh man, we're moving on it. Moving on it.
There's 100 people that like what we say, so.
Well, some people like to listen to the enemy and stuff too. They don't necessarily like us.
We had a little promotion going for the 100th subscriber, and Ramblin' Hamlin is the one that ended up being 100.
Oh, really?
All right. Yeah.
He does take some awesome photography.
Yeah, we can't give him pictures then because he's got plenty of pictures of us.
We'll have to, before the 13th, we'll have to make contact with him on Facebook and see if he wants it or give it to the next person after. Since he's an integral part anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. He might want a couple shirts. We can just give him a couple shirts.
I say, I'm sure he would wear the shirts.
Yeah. Of course, we'll have to get a hold of Curtis and see if Curtis will give out a shirt or what he'll do. Because a lot of the pictures I use on like Facebook or YouTube comes from him. So I'm sure he's not going to want something.
Yeah, like he's not going to want his picture. I've used a few of his pictures in our podcast too.
So we definitely got to give him credit, and we definitely got to give him something. So hopefully by the 13th, I'll have another line of T-shirts too that I'll be throwing out there. Plus,
my wife is just working on my shirts today.
Wow.
That's Bobby B sitting on another wrestler.
She's just working on those today that'll be ready for the 13th.
Oh, Ashley?
Yep.
Oh, maybe she'll give me a better deal. I still got to go give her my bells because I've had 2 boxes of bells over here that I just failed. I'll bring those to work tomorrow, so I'll have to swing by.
I'm taking her big roll of white vinyl right here.
Oh, damn. Well, let's see. Nothing really in the works for SICW. And this week, we didn't have no shows. The TV taping is actually currently going on, so I can't give you the results of that because we're actually doing this at the same hour that it's airing on YouTube. Some pretty cool highlights, I guess you would say. This week on SmackDown, we ran our commercials. So I think there was 4 spots in SmackDown that the SICW commercials ran. Of course, for the May 13th show.
No, here's what I was wondering. I was going to contact my dad who lives in Arkansas, and I never did. Is that show on all SmackDowns or just the ones around here?
Just
Like
around,
in the market.
around here. So whatever, it's Fox, Channel 2, right?
Mhm.
So just whoever gets that local Fox network.
Gotcha.
So if he gets news from St. Louis, he probably gets that version of the SmackDown too.
I know, like Herb had talked about people already booking flights and hotels and stuff coming in for the show months ago.
Yeah, months ago, there was already people from Canada. There was a person from England that contacted him. What was really cool is the guy from England had talked about how he had just went to like a convention like this, and he was just raving about the low ticket prices that we have. Because he said his ticket prices was extremely high, and everyone over there wanted a lot of money for the pictures and stuff like that. And Herb is trying to keep everything down low because he wants it more of a fan experience. So I don't know if you guys got on the SICW website or anything like that, but it's $27 for a ticket to the Fan Fest, $27 for a ticket to the wrestling show. But if you do them both together, I think it's only like $45. So you definitely get $27 per each one. I mean, that's a great price anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's crazy. When I worked the TNA show and got to see all these people coming in, there was people that was VIPs that were paying $200 some odd a ticket to get in front of the line to meet and greet all the guys. And then you had the regular people, the people who just bought the general admission to come in and see them. I think they were paying, man, I still say it was high. I want to say it was $85 or $95 to do a meet and greet. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. And that weekend we had, as a TNA, and this was back when Hulk Hogan was in it. So you had the Hulk Hogan, the Eric Bischoff, Samoa Joe was in there, Sting was in there. It was just that whole roster. Ooh, is this Jason Breed popping in? Maybe. We wasn't quite sure if Jason was going to make it in tonight. We've been trying to get in touch with him all day.
Well, his video's still up. There he is.
There he is, Mr. Jason Breed in the house.
There's the man.
How we doing tonight, gentlemen? How we doing tonight?
Doing pretty good.
How you been?
Not bad, gentlemen. I've been pretty good. Getting ready for this show. Looking forward to that. That's what I've been doing.
Well, Jason, here in the Square Ring, we like to get like your whole career, even beyond the career. Because my favorite question to ask, normally the very first question I ask any one of our people that come on as a guest, is what got you hooked into wrestling? Prior to saying I want to be a wrestler, what got you hooked into wrestling?
The very first match I saw was Kerry Von Erich versus Al Perez for the Texas World Heavyweight Championship. Those were the first matches I watched with my grandmother growing up. And then I just slowly progressed. I wrestled in high school, and I don't know. My memories of the Road Warriors and the Rock and Roll Express, the wars they used to have, Dusty Rhodes giving somebody the bionic elbow.
Yes.
We went to see the Keel. We went to the Keel when I was probably about 16. It was me and one of my friends. His dad took us. That night it was the Fabulous Freebirds, I believe, against. No, it was the Four Horsemen versus Dr. Death. Dr. Death. I want to say. Might have been Hanson. It was Dr. Death, but Dusty Rhodes was in there versus the Four Horsemen. It was so electrifying to see in the crowd and see how people reacted on a major level like that. I remember vividly watching these two guys dress up in tux suits and sitting there giving the Four Horsemen sign to people, and this guy coming over and getting ready to stab one of them, and just catching the wrestling bug and never letting it go. So I think my first wrestling match was 2000 for South Broadway. I wrestled. Yeah, my very first match. I trained for about a year down with South Broadway. Blackheart trained me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
He had a little hand with me as well.
yeah. Blackheart was my first official trainer. I remember sitting and funny stories how I got involved in it. I had started going to Harrisstown, and WCW had just had a pay-per-view. We were sitting in class, and two guys behind me were talking about the pay-per-view that night. And it happened to be Ryan Ash. And he was training down at South Broadway at the time. He's like, hey, if you like wrestling, come on down. So I came on down, and John Blackheart looked at me and said, get in the ring. I got in the ring. He said, if you can take a bump, you can wrestle. He picked me up and gave me a body slam. And I bounced right back up. I bounced right back up. No sold period. Just bounced right back up. He looked at me and giggled and said, okay, we're going to work with you. And yeah, I trained for about a year until I got my first match with Major Pain. That was right around the time Ben and GCW was starting up. So Ben caught me one day. It was like, you need to come down here with Gateway Championship Wrestling. And I spent 9 years with those guys.
Were you still doing South Broadway, or did you just cut ties?
No, we cut ties. That was right when Pete and MRW was really taking off or coming to the end. And GCW started to take off after that. So I caught in with all those guys. Dino Blade was there. Big Bad Ben, Pete Madden, Human Wrecking Ball, Pete Madden. I remember when this little kid walked in, and he had to have his parents' permission to wrestle because he wasn't old enough to wrestle yet. So I thought I killed him in his first match. That ended up being Matt, which turned into Evan Bourne.
Yeah.
Who was who he is now. Like, yeah. I remember almost killing him in a match, and I think Ben was like, man, fuck. Excuse my language. He said, you got to be careful with the kids, man. He jumped. I was Billy's first match in GCW, too.
Really?
Yeah. I was
You got all the high flyers.
Yeah, I had So I was good at catching kids.
Slamming them down even harder.
Yeah, they would fly through the air, and I had no problem with breaking a fall and catching them. It was my thing. I mean,
It was your thing.
It was my thing. I had a blast with those guys, man. Those early days with Delirious, Mischief, Sean Almighty, Kevin X, Kevin Sharp.
I've got to work with him. He's a great worker. Man,
I mean, amazing. These guys, I came up under these guys. Pete Madden was a big influence. Ben, rest in peace, really was grooming me for the hardcore. Like I was wrestling during the ECW days, so he really sort of groomed me for that, for the hardcore to the extreme. So I had no fear, and I was pretty tough. So I went with the tables and ladders and chairs. I wrestled Balls Mahoney. Twice actually. One of my highlights was him, and I tag match was me and Sandman, Ben, and who was that? He's gonna be mad because I can't remember his name at the moment. We were Old School Warriors. I'm sorry, Chaz Wesson.
Yeah.
So me and Chaz tagged against Ben and Sandman in Cape Girardeau, I think it was. Hey, those are my earliest years. I took about a 9-year run with GCW before I took off, and I went my own way for training purposes, I guess. you might say. I went down to Jeff City and I started doing MMA. And I trained down there with some really good guys. Had about 30 fights in the cage.
Really?
Yeah, I had about 30 fights in the cage. That's
Oh.
about a punch drunk estimate of how many fights I've had in and out the cage. There comes a time where I was fighting and I was just fighting to be fighting because that's what I did. So I had to step away before I got hurt because I wasn't smart enough to stop. Like somebody had to tell me, say, hey, you're not training for real. You're just taking fights just because you can fight. Said, touche. I said, so.
What did you?
Go ahead.
Did you ever keep a win-loss record of the cage matches?
I did until I went on like a 7-fight losing streak, and I just stopped counting. I won my last fight, and that was enough for me to step away. I didn't want to go out on an L, so I won my last fight. I fought down there in Fenton at what's the place? It's a bar right there in Fenton. It's closed now. It's a hotel.
Oh.
It was real big. It had a bar and a sand volleyball pit. It's closed now. It caught on fire not too long ago. We had a couple fights down there. I fought for Shamrock. But funny story, the guy I fought from Shamrock beat me in the first round with a head kick. He ended up going to the Ultimate Fighter. Somebody in the crowd was from the Ultimate Fighter, was there scouting the fight. So I came that close to making to the cut for the Ultimate Fighter.
Wow.
My buddy used to fight for Shamrock. Ira Lukowski. I wrestled with him in high school. Ira Lukowski?
Yeah, I know the man. I heard him. I heard his name before.
That's it. He'd get up to a couple title fights, and then his jiu-jitsu defense just wasn't quite there.
And I trained with guys smaller than me, so my defense was amazing. I was always wrestling with guys. The guys I fought with were 55, 35-pounders. If I was lucky, I got a 180, and I was fighting at least light heavy, just walking around at like 220. So everybody I had to train with was smaller than me, so they were faster than me.
Right.
So I learned how to defend myself in jiu-jitsu, which was my downfall, because I never learned any offense for real. Now, I fought guys who were really good on the ground, and I could defend myself, but it came to the point where I had to learn how to get up. And I was good on my feet. I've always been a striker. But it just came to the point where I got too comfortable defending myself. I just couldn't work my way out of it mentally. You get stuck in those mental spots, you have to break those, especially when it comes to fighting. Bobby, you understand that as far as wrestling is concerned.
But we take time to train.
Yeah.
We don't just take it.
Yeah, I was taking fights at the Whiskey Tango up there in Columbia on like 3-4 days notice, fighting guys who had been training like nonstop.
There's a whole cardio and strength phase in there where you do this the week, then this week, and this week, and you're doing 3 days.
Yeah. The thing about MMA is you have to train with different people. Mixed martial arts isn't something you can just sit back and enjoy your company with. I trained with some good guys, but I didn't learn anything if they didn't learn. If they don't get better, I don't get better, and we get stuck in a circle.
Well, I bring that to the Ace Academy too, because we got a group of like 10 people down there, and some of them only want to work with some people, and I was like, no, we don't do that. You guys are all rookies, so you guys got to work with each one of them, and I make them separate, and it's almost like an old school gym class where you blow the whistle and then each one switches to a different person. Because, wrestling, and don't get me wrong, I've not ventured into MMA. My body will not handle that stuff. My knees are already shot now. I can just imagine if someone just in there cranking down on it, probably pop my lower leg off. But
one thing I learned about MMA is no pride. When somebody got you in a chokehold, I'm tapping out. I'm getting up. I'm good.
But I tell him, I said, I got one student that I actually have to look up to, and it's different when you're wrestling someone the same height as you, but then, like you said, you got to practice people that are taller, but people that are heavier. You got to get used to all of them, because again, you only get better from the knowledge that you learn from wrestling everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm going to throw back to your earlier part. How long did you wrestle for Broadway?
I trained for about a year, but I only had that one match with Major Payne.
Okay.
Down in South Broadway.
So,
I came back and went back and forth a little bit later on in my career, but for the most part, I was a one horse pony. When I left South Broadway, I'm a loyal guy. I don't mind being a hometown hero. I don't mind being from St. Louis because this is my city. So I never really ventured out. If Ben didn't tell me, hey, we got you booked in Kansas, or if Sadie didn't say, hey, we're finna take a road trip, or Patterson say, hey, we got some shows over here, I'm fine where I'm at. Like, I trusted the people I was with, and that was enough for me. I never expected to be able to fulfill my dream as a professional wrestler. So when it came to me, the politics aside, I just wanted to enjoy the moment. I'm still like that now. Politics aside, and I'm glad I'm in a locker room now that doesn't have any. But politics aside, I never wanted to become anything more than fun. I wanted to enjoy the moment. I wanted to enjoy the camaraderie with my brothers. I wanted to enjoy the fans. And that's what I got into wrestling for. Opportunities come and they go, but I love my life with my family, so I don't really regret, not taking the road trips up there and not taking a shot at this, that, and the other. I don't regret any of that. I'm happy where I'm at.
Cool. So the 9 years in GCW, did you ever get a chance to go for a title, or did you ever get a title?
No. The first time I held the belt was with Flash and SICW, the tag team belts.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, so like I said, in GCW, we had Dingo, Billy McNeil, Ryan Ash, super sexy Sean Vincent. Super sexy Sean Vincent. Dingo in his prime, like before the injuries, Dingo in his prime. That was our light heavyweight division. And I'm leaving out like Mischief. Those guys, our light heavyweight division was so entertaining and mesmerizing that Dynamo or GCW started to take off. And on the heavyweight side, I had Big Bad Ben and Pete Madden, Chaz Wilson, and when in his prime was an amazing wrestler. Like his singles, there was a point in GCW when Chaz was doing his singles things and he was just rocking and rolling. I mean, the mullet was rocking. I mean, he was in shape. He was in his zone. So me sort of just played my role. I never got a chance to pursue a title. I was never really offered. I had a long feud running with Nicky Strychnine when he was a champion. But as far as holding the belt, no, I've never really got a chance to represent the company like that.
Wow. I mean, it's crazy because, I remember Bobby talks about going to see GCW all the time. Mm-hmm. I've only went to a couple of the shows. And I talked about how, in a previous episode of ours, I talked about how I was looking for GCW, but ended up showing up at South Broadway because they were running shows the same night.
Yeah.
And so I walked into South Broadway, seen that they had wrestling going on. I asked them, is this GCW? And they said, no, that's a couple blocks down. So I left, went a couple blocks down to GCW.
Yeah.
That's who I was looking for. So that's who I wanted to see.
You know, they came to Belleville. You could have just gone there.
Yeah.
Well,
I say I was in
days,
junior high. I couldn't drive out to St. Louis. I went to the Belleville shows.
Yeah. Those are some good days wrestling down to South Broadway. Gino was there, Terminator.
Yeah.
The Lumberjacks used to come in all the time.
Yeah.
Blackheart was training, and the Immortal One popped up every while. Gary Jackson would come in and train.
The vampire.
Yeah, I mean he looked exactly the same.
He does.
The exact same as he did when I started training down the
So Gino Harris was my main trainer, but Blackheart was good friends with Gino, so he was always there. But Gino was the one that mainly did the training for us for my few classes, because I always tell the rookies, I said, you guys have it so easy. And I don't know how your training went, but when Gino was the head trainer, man, he beat the tar out of you.
Yeah,
and,
rough. It went real rough.
Right. And I tell them, and there's a few that even I had to say, all right, you're just not cut out. You need to go. So far, there's been 3 of them, but it's probably half the rookies would probably already left if Gino was still here training.
Yeah, Gino had a heavy hand. He had a heavy hand and a broke pinky when he chopped you. It was weird. Like he had a broke pinky when he chopped you, and that chop hand you would see it coming. He had the handlebar mustache. I really cared for Gino. He was a good guy. He was rough. He was rough. You were going to be able to fight once you got out the ring training with Gino. I can bet you that.
Yeah, you knew you had done something. Yeah, I respected him. I even told him before he passed that he was like a substitute father for me, because it was my father at one point worked 2 jobs most of his life. So it was school for me, and then going to wrestling practice. And then when I got out of school, I immediately jumped into the work life. But then it was still practice. So he became, you looked up to him. He became a mentor to me.
Yeah.
Not that he didn't treat me like the favorite son, because one of our practices, I don't know if I told Bobby's probably heard this story before, but he was wrestling me, and all of a sudden he rips something out of his mouth and he starts going over my forehead with it. I'm like, what the fuck did you have in your mouth? It was his false teeth. Yeah. He had taken his false teeth out.
Yeah, good
memory. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, good memories. He popped them out on me one time. I was in the corner getting ready to take a chop. And he popped them out on me, and I sort of jumped back and just completely lost concentration. Yeah.
And I don't remember if it was Blackheart or if it was Brewer, but one of them, and during one of my training classes, man, I want to say it was Blackheart, but he told me, he goes, man, if you ever have an enemy in the ring and you got him that night, I want you to take some lemon juice and you get that all over your hands where it's all nice and wet, and when you first lock up, you rake that son of a bitch's eyes. You make sure you get that lemon juice in his eyes. I was like,
man, the amount of old school stuff I learned in between butt whoopings and that. I remember for a long time, it was disappointing that Tony didn't know who I was, because I trained down there for a year, and I don't think it was that he didn't know who I was. He was given. I got an opportunity for him to actually speak to me directly, and he's like, you know what? That's good. It was after a match that he had attended for SICW. He's like, hey kid, that was a really good match. He had the cigarette in his hand, and I was like, I appreciate that, Tony. He said, yeah, Jason, you did a real good job. I was like, okay, I appreciate that, Tony. Getting respect from those old school guys meant something. Something that is lacking in today's wrestling. wanting that respect from your peers
Yeah.
is something they brought they put on us early. You know, like you're not gonna. Like I trained for a year before I had my first match. A year. I
Right.
mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of butt whoopings. Yeah, I kept coming back. I kept coming back. I finally and Tony's like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you. You got a show this weekend." Man, I don't think I've ever been so excited for 6 minutes. Uh, and I remember not being able to breathe. Like the whole match, I think I held my breath.
No.
G Dog, that's what they called me. I was the G Dog. That's what they announced me as. And I came out to Mama Said Knock You Out by LL Cool J.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's actually a cool anthem to come out to, though.
Yeah,
That's
it
pretty
was pretty
cool.
cool at the moment. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
What do you do now?
they didn't know what to think of me when I came over. They didn't know what to think of me when I first came out.
So was it that name? I guess you transferred that into GCW with Daemon G? D-Dog to
Yeah,
Daemon?
yeah. And the Demon really came from Devon Dudley. So Ben was really close with Paulie and Rob Van Dam. When ECW was first taking off, he used to go down there to Philly with them and hang out. He told me a story one time where it wasn't one man gang. It was somebody else that was big at the beginning of the ECW run to sort of fit Ben's build, and he was supposed to take that spot, but
Oh.
he didn't make the trip. So that's when he really stuck at home and started. So we had a card with Rob and Nova at North County Tech. It was one of our bigger shows, one of the ones I remember being on with Rob Van Dam. But he was really big with those guys. So I think the longest run in GCW I had was, do you remember Jock LaFleur? Captain Jock, Man
I,
Jock. Yeah,
I do
Jock,
not.
dude Jock. So me and Jock had a long running uh, extreme feud where if he got hit in his head, he would switch gimmicks. The man was overly talented. I mean,
Oh my God.
he did Mankind. Uh, we settled on, we settled on me and him doing sort of a spinoff of the Dudley Boys called the Bubbly Boys. It was it was me and Jock, and that's what we did for about 4 or 5 years when we tagged against the old school warriors, Keith Smith and Chaz Weston, on probably a nightly basis. That's where I got to learn how to do tag team wrestling. Keith had a lot to do with that. Keith and Chaz and the old school warriors had a lot to do with my understanding of tag team wrestling. It was that was a lot of chops. God, that was a lot of chops.
God, I remember those days wrestling Chaz and Smith and yeah, a lot of chops.
A lot of chops. I remember we were at Aggie's for GCW, and I wasn't on the card. I just showed up, and they had a battle royal. Ben was like, "Jump in the ring," so I didn't even bring my gear. I didn't bring my gear just because I didn't want to get in the ring. But he got me in the ring. So I'm in the ring, and I took my shirt off, and I remember laying on the mat, and Chaz turned around and looking at me and seeing me with my shirt off. Him and Keith looking and started smiling at each other. And for the next 5 minutes, I was holding on to the bottom rope while they pulled my legs, trying to get me to let go of the rope, and me screaming, "No!"
God.
I'm going to guess they got you.
Yeah, they eventually got me. They always eventually get you. They always want to get you.
How'd you get involved in SICW?
Well, it was. I think the first run was with Vincent. Vincent sort of leaned towards me to. I need to get away from what I was doing and come that way. He knew that was the first time before I hurt my leg. He knew I was getting back in shape. I had just came back from doing MMA, so I was more into my striking than I am now. and I ended up hurting my leg that one night. I think that was with you, wasn't it, Bobby? No, that was with Gary. That was the night where I would wrestle. I worked Gary. I dove out the ring and caught my foot, and man, I don't know. I pulled a lot of stuff, and that's when I had to sit down for a while. But yeah, Vincent brought me into it. He knew I didn't. I'm the type of guy that will go and fill a void if needed. So wrestling with the younger guys, the void that was needed wasn't so much leadership. It was as much more a punching bag. You know, a little bit of the toughness that I had always had. But they had that new age fangled training and things of that nature, and I really wasn't with it. So Sean got in touch with me and was like, no, you need to come on down to SISDW. And the rest is history. I haven't been happier.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I worked many locker rooms, and this is the only one I can say is, everyone is calm. I mean, when I first got to SICW, there was a couple of them that worked the political system, but we haven't had that in years now, and it's been nice. You know
why? So, yeah, so when I first came back, I planned on splitting between here and another company that was in St. Louis. They were tied together. SICW and they were tied together, so that was enough for me. I would have bounced back and forth. I'd have been in the same locker room, same cards. The locker room wasn't right when I got there. I saw a lot of unnecessary egos, I guess.
Right.
More of a me and not the company that needs to look good type attitudes. As long as I've never been that way. So, like I said, I wrestled with GCW the whole time of my career. We bounced around. Ben took me and did a lot of road shows. I got to experience that. But for the most part, I would have been fine wrestling for GCW the whole time if the doors had kept open. And as I stand, I'm perfectly fine where I'm at with SICW. I probably won't. I might step out and do something else, but only if given the opportunity to or asked. Like, I'm comfortable where I'm at. This is home. I'm loyal to those who brought me to the show, and that's where I'm going to stay at.
There you go. Yeah, I get that. A lot of people, the 25-mile rule came up here last week again. And I don't know if you guys caught that on Facebook land, but, I talked to her about, I was like, how many times do we got to tell people, because it wasn't anyone in our locker room, of course, because it's never anyone in our locker room that's bitching about it. But so it got back online about how I could never work for a company that wouldn't let me work wherever I wanted to work. And I couldn't work for a company because 25 miles is too long of a distance. We should be able to work wherever. I'm thinking, this will never go away, and it's everyone outside of our locker room that bitches about it. If they would ever if they ever got a chance to work with our locker room, they too would realize, well, shit, I should have, I should be working here and not working all those other places.
The thing is, you can work anywhere you want to. You just can't work at SICW.
Right.
We are exclusive. You see the major leagues of wrestling, I guess you want to put it. Do you see these guys jumping around from promotion to promotion? No. You've never seen Triple H on a WCW card.
Right.
Well, maybe Paul.
Yeah, think about it. Like, you've never seen the guys that are in it for the long run. That was why ECW was so big. Those guys wanted to make ECW big.
Right.
The Tommy Dreamers, the Mikey Whipwrecks, the Rob Van Dams. Those guys had opportunities to go wherever they wanted to, but they stayed loyal to ECW. They wanted to make that show, that company, the best it can be. That's how I felt about GCW. That's how I feel about SICW. I'll do what I have to do to make our company the best it is. And like I said, proof's in the pudding.
You're
We
right.
are the best company we're the best company in the area. I mean, in my opinion, hands down. You don't have to shoot somebody. We don't wrestle dolls. Nobody gets caught on fire. Um,
Referees wearing masks.
yeah, I don't. I can't remember the last time we saw a super kick. We only have one guy that does flippies. So, like, this is wrestling what it's supposed to be. This is wrestling where anybody in our locker room, if you seen them on the street, you would know they were professional. If you knew they were a professional wrestler, you could believe they can handle themselves.
Right.
That's the type of wrestling I grew up on. It's so the first time I met Animal the Road Warriors, John, I couldn't talk to them because I grew up watching them run through the crowds and beat the crap out of people. So I completely marked out. I took like 3 shows before I could even introduce myself to him.
That's awesome.
You know, and that he was intimidating or anything of that nature. He's one of the boys. I just had that in my head. You know,
Awesome.
growing up watching these guys, you know, and you're sort of awestruck when you finally get a chance to meet these guys. And that's why I'm here. The next show, our big show, our fan fest. My whole childhood is pretty much going to be in the building.
Yeah, I know.
I did see a
feel the
post
same
from
way.
you. I did see a post from you, Breed. Said your childhood hero is added to the card. Which one were your?
Well, they're all there. Haku was really my childhood hero. Him and the Barbarian were the guys that we emulated growing up. They were the ones that stood toe to toe with the Legion of Doom. Like those were the guys that we wanted to be like. We didn't have a lot of role models. So the first time I actually got a chance to meet him, it was a sensitive moment for me because I didn't have role models like that. And then I got to see the guy I grew up like face to face. He's sitting here talking to me, and I got a chance to tell him. I almost got I got grounded for cutting my hair like the Barbarian for Halloween. My mom was pissed. She was, "What is wrong with you?" I took some paint and painted my face. I don't know if it was latex or what. It peeled off, but I got the job done. I looked like Barbarian for Halloween, and she just shook her head.
Oh, that's awesome.
Something's wrong with him. So you know, like meeting these guys. The addition of Baron Von Raschke. So I remember the first time I seen him. The Von Erichs were in the ring in Texas, and I think Kevin had just won the championship. Fritz was in the ring. A big fight broke out. People rushed the ring. Baron Von Raschke came out of the crowd and iron clawed Fritz. He goes down, and I'm a kid. Now, mind you, I'm a kid. When he pulled Raschke off, Fritz is bleeding everywhere. My jaw is like wide open, like he killed him. He squeezed his hand, he broke it. So, and that was the first time I saw Baron Von Raschke. And I mean, as a kid, I wasn't even a teenager yet. I don't think. Just seeing that was all I needed to do was to be involved. I remember when Ultimate Warrior was the Dingo Warrior before they changed his name.
Wow.
He was a Dingo Warrior. Before they changed his name, he went to WWE, became the Ultimate Warrior.
Such a weird name to have.
Yeah, right, the Dingo Warrior. Like, and
The Dingo Warrior.
He was jacked up then too.
Oh yeah.
I think it was AWA. I used to watch a lot of with Nick Bockwinkel. I think that was their federation back then. Nick Bockwinkel, Greg Gagne. The first time seeing Mr. Perfect, him and his father, the Axe, Kurt Hennig, they wrestled on those shows. So those guys were real wrestlers compared to some of the nonsense that goes on nowadays. And I can say it. I mean, a lot of the stuff you see nowadays is more theatrical,
More
in my
on
opinion.
entertainment side of things.
Yeah. I blame a lot of it on social media. The fans have got a lot of access to things that they normally wouldn't have had. With a weekly show or a show coming to your town once a month, the fans didn't get a chance to Google their favorite wrestler and find out what he did on a regular basis back then.
Yeah.
So that curtain they're sort of peeking behind that curtain, and it takes a lot off. And the newer wrestlers nowadays don't really mind as much. They're celebrities in their own right. Uh, they don't really protect their trademark because that's what they are. You know, they're who they are full time. They're not necessarily professional wrestlers. They're more carnies, in my opinion. So
That's what, like, to go with that, like, I've seen Rhea Ripley on some TikToks backstage, and it doesn't fit her character, the things that she's doing and talking, and...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they don't protect who they are as much anymore. And that was one of the reasons I switched from when I came back to wrestling, and I didn't go with the Daemon G again. I didn't want to be Daemon G. I wanted to be somebody else. I wanted to be me. I wanted to be Jason. For good or bad, or for right or wrong, however that plays out, I wanted the fans to get a chance to know me and not who I was back then. You know, I like coming out and talking to the fans. I like them being having access to me. I like hearing them say Jason instead of some other name. You know, that's what I enjoy that now, and that's where I'm at now in my career.
I was like that for forever too. I mean, anyone who knows my career, 90% of my career I was in a mask. Mm-hmm. You know, the big Texan, guerrilla warfare. And what got me out of the mask, my father, you know, moved to Kansas. I couldn't even tell you how long ago it was, and since my father's passed, but so my father had moved to Kansas, and he was out there for probably a good 10 years or so, and he would come like once every 5 years. He would come back just to visit. In one of his visits, he asked me, he goes, "Man, you've been doing this such a long time. Why don't you ever try to get our name out there instead of just the big Texan? Why do you have to wear a mask? Why don't you take your mask off and be yourself?" And he kept saying our name, like the Hoffarth name. You know, you should wrestle as yourself. And so it got to me, and so, you know, I was like, hell, me and Gary, we did a match, and I put the mask on the line. Gary put his career on the line. Of course, we know how that went. Gary's still wrestling, so I lost the match. You know, but then it just worked out. You know, I was able to be me, like you said, able to, you know, show my face, talk to the fans, and have them get behind me, you know. Where before I was more like a mercenary. I didn't care who I fought, who I wrestled, good, bad, manager, non-manager, didn't matter to me. You know, I just went out there. But yeah, it is a totally different situation, you know, because I think the mask kind of sheltered me. And just like your name, you know, Daemon G, you know, put a little, it's, even if it's a small barrier, it'll probably put a barrier up, and now you're free to be yourself. And that's, and, you know, towards the tail end of the mask gimmick anyway, the fans started to turn me anyway. It was, you know, they didn't, I mean, they thought it was just so cool when I beat someone up, so it didn't matter if I was good or bad. They cheered me anyway, so everything was leading up to the point where, might as well,
I remember hearing in the locker room when you and Waco would go out there and they'd, yay, Texan, boo, Waco. Like, even as a team, like, you were still being lifted up.
Yeah, so.
Fans knew what they liked. They know what they like. The crowd, and that is another reason I like SICW is the fans. Old school wrestling fans are the best fans in the world. When they believe you and they have your back, I mean, it's nothing like a wrestling fan in any aspect of the game. Like, however, whatever, if you go to a wrestling show as a worker, if you go to a wrestling show and you get a chance to see fans in their natural habitat, not knowing that it's amazing. Like the love they have for it is always ignites you to want to put that show on for them, to get them to. So it's seeing like going to like one of the big fairs like the WWE or AEW show and seeing how they get into it, seeing how the kids cheer for them. I can ignore that they're more gymnasts than they are actually professional wrestlers, but the kids love them. Like the fans love them, and that's what we do it for real. We do it for them.
If
the fans didn't come, it wouldn't be the same if we didn't have the same type of fans. Can you imagine wrestling in Japan where they just basically clap?
Oh, no, yeah. I brought that up before, when Herb brought in Harley Race. I sat down with Harley and was talking to him, and I asked him, I said, where was your favorite place to wrestle? And he chose Japan. And he said, because you had to know your shit. Because they're dead silent. So you had to know how you were doing to get to the end, to get how you wanted the end, either booed or clapped. You had to get to that point, but you had to be confident and know what you were doing, because they wouldn't let you know during the match.
I mean, that has
almost kind of scary.
Yeah, that language barrier. That would be something to overcome. If you don't know your business, they're gonna find out pretty soon. You can't really fake it when you don't know what the other person's thinking or saying.
Right. Plus, Japan is all strong style, so if you don't defend yourself, you're gonna get your ass whipped.
One of my Goto and the Iron Pitbull is probably one of my favorite wrestlers. The guy with no neck. They call him the Iron Pitbull in New Japan. Him, Goto, the Rainmaker. I watched those guys. It's the Rainmaker and the AJ Styles series. The strong style is what brought me back to wrestling. Because like I said, I was doing MMA, and I don't mix a lot of it in to what I do now, because I don't want to kick somebody for real. Let me rephrase that. I don't mind kicking somebody. I don't want to get carried away.
You want them to have all their teeth.
Yeah, I don't. I hate to go back and be like, man, I'm sorry. So I try to tone it down a little bit. I will try to. I plan on mixing a little bit more of it into my fighting style coming up.
See, I say the opposite for Sean Vincent coming up. I really want to kick his teeth out.
Oh yeah, see, yeah. I know the feeling. I definitely know the feeling.
I need to get a close up of that one too. I want to get slow motion, the teeth just coming out of his head.
Definitely has people feeling that way about him. That's for sure.
Yeah. One thing I like to say about the SICW fans, there is a great mix, young, old, I don't know what you want to say, adult, but the older fans, I get a kick out of them because they've seen it. They've seen the wrestling at the Chase. They know how it's supposed to go down. And so I love the ones that try to give you pointers or like, tell you, if you would have just hit him like this or,
try. See me try.
Right.
I should have known I supposed to wrestle out there.
You gotta love them though, but I love the ones
that one fan you said before the dick claw,
Yeah, the dick claw.
I knew that'd get you.
Oh, the good old dick claw.
I suffered myself to watch one of his matches, and I saw him do some different moves, and he didn't do the dick claw. I was sort of disappointed, but I was sort of offended. Like, was it just me? Like, you wanted to dick claw me? I don't. You didn't dick claw him. Why you didn't dick claw him? I didn't know how to feel about that. Like, I didn't know how to sell that. I didn't know how to feel about that. Now he doesn't use it anymore. Was I the straw that broke the camel's back? Did I make you stop using it?
It hurt his hand.
You saved many wrestlers after that night.
Oh, God. I remember working a guy at South Broadway, and his finishing move was a Bronco Buster. Or his setup move was a Bronco.
I was going to say that was his finisher? Damn.
Yeah, and I was like, you want me to let you do what? Your move is what? You're going to do what?
Yeah, it's it's weird. I watched
when he went for it, I put my foot up. I don't know if he expected to or not. So yeah, that's how we took that home.
You gave him his own dick claw there.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan. I've taken that move before, but it was from Christy Miss, the porn star. Yeah.
Oh.
So, fun story.
Was that in a ring?
That was one of the adult shows that we used to do. We used to do the adult F and only shows at GCW, and she came in. So GCW, we were sort of leaning towards more to ECW and not CZW. So the guys from CZW were bringing in adult stars for valets. I can't remember the guy's name. Well, Christy comes in to do a show for us at the adults only show during her adult movie career. I remember the wives. Ooh, I don't know if you've ever met Michelle Smith, but
I have.
She's scarier than me.
Woo, the fact that she was in our locker room was not sitting well. And if that woman had made any wrong move, we probably had to bail Michelle out of. We'd have probably had to bail Miss Smith out of jail that night. She was on borders. She was like, if she says the wrong thing to anybody, I'm beating her up. Okay. So yeah, and during the match, I was wrestling Ben, and Ben held me up, and she smacked me. And during the match, he called this. He kicked me in the nuts, and I got down in the corner. And I said, I know she's running in for a Bronco Buster. And she wasn't a good wrestler, let me just tell you. She did not really know how to do the move. That was one of my highlights, though. I think we probably, if I search hard enough, I could probably find that video. Christy Miss giving me a Bronco Buster. And me smiling the whole time.
Nose got a little wet.
I was like, this is what pro wrestling is right here. I said, I love this. Can't get a better job than this. What are you talking about?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. We had that whole adult effing only show. We had a series that we did at our gym. And you had to be 18 and up to be allowed. Good times. Good times.
I've seen a couple of those matches from the adult show, and it's on YouTube. Most of the matches, so you go ahead.
There's one of me and Nikki where I got crucified upside down.
Oh my God! Really?
It took him a long time to get me to agree to that.
Wow.
Yeah. Good times.
Nikki always had a good habit of taking things to that next level.
So,
The Undertaker got a lot of heat.
Yeah.
The Undertaker got a lot of heat when he did that to Stephanie McMahon, and that wasn't even upside down.
No. Nikki Strychnine was the guy that didn't have a gimmick. He really was evil. Like he was. I remember. So we had a show post 9/11. Probably a few days after the towers had come down, and I remember walking into the locker room. It was really somber, and we were our pre-meeting. I remember Ben looking at Nikki and saying, "Nikki, if you say any fucking thing tonight, I swear I'm going to lose my crap with you." And me just laughing because Nikki's like, "What? What do you expect me to say?" And then he ran off about 4 really, really bad jokes. And Ben was bright pink. I mean, he was red like a stop sign. And
was that when he made the Columbine jokes?
That might have been. Yeah, Nikki was a master. I mean, if you have the opportunity to ever get on the mic with Nikki and listen to Nikki Strychnine talk, just know that no matter what he says, it's been toned down for the public.
And that's bad.
It's been toned down for the public. I don't think we've ever allowed him to really cut loose the way he wanted to. He'll run it down to us beforehand, but everything. No, not Nikki. Can't. No, you can't say that. No. I mean, but those are some of the best times I've had, man, with those guys.
I like to hear those ones because the ones that do go on air are pretty far.
Oh, I mean, sitting in the back, and Jock LaFleur, he was a good promo guy too. So sitting between him and Nikki, because Nikki really didn't like anybody else. So him and Jock were friends. So I was sitting with them, listening to him cut promos unedited in the back. Oh my God! I mean, I know this man really dislikes people. I mean, really dislikes people. And we had to censor him quite a few times to his disapproval. Like the adult effing only shows, that was Nikki at his best. That was that he had free reign on the adult effing only shows, and he took full advantage of that.
I've been saving this.
He took full advantage of that.
So, what do you think are your highlights of your career? I mean, obviously, you talked about winning the tag belts with Flanagan.
Yeah, that was. I wasn't. Yeah. Being in SICW at this point is one of the highlights of my career. I wrestled Balls twice. Balls Mahoney. He was a real good friend of mine. I was hurt when he passed. That first match at the adult effing only really lit my fire as far as wrestling is concerned. I didn't get a chance to do everything I wanted to, but I did enough. Catching the beer from Sandman that he threw to me after our match, that was a highlight of my career too.
Nice.
Yeah. Just traveling with these guys, explaining to Sadie Blaze what street ball is, like and one, and why they're not calling traveling. There's no traveling calls and air ones. So he's like, that doesn't make any sense. I know. It doesn't make. It's not supposed to. The road trips with these guys, growing up with these guys. I just went to dinner with my mom Friday at Bishop's Post in Chesterfield. Mike Sharona is the manager there, Mike Patterson. He's a really good friend of mine. I've known Vincent since he was 19. I think he was 19 when we met. He might have been a little bit younger than that when I first met him. He's the same person he was then. I walked into a gym, and I'll tell this, when he gets into the Hall of Fame, I'll tell this same story. I had been wrestling for about 2 years before I met him. I walked into the training session one day, and he had his little tight T-shirt on, and he said, "Hey, you wrestler?" I said, "Yeah." Something like that. He said, "Okay, so we're training." So he goes about teaching me how to lock up and how to do hammer locks and all this. And Nikki looks over and says, "Daemon, what the fuck are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm training with him." He said, "He's never even had a match. He's a rookie." I said, "Well, he talks so confident. I thought he knew something I didn't." That was the very first day I met Sean Vincent. So, like I said, he's always been that way. Absolutely, he's the one person. That's him. That's exactly who he is. There's a few things I wanted to do. I would like to hold a major title for our company. I would like to earn and represent SICW myself. I do feel like this summer I'm probably going to spread my wings a little bit. I have a friend getting back into wrestling, Damian Cortez. And yeah, he's coming back, and I'm excited about that, being able to work with him when he gets back in here. But I think this summer I'm really going to sort of open up and let it loose a little bit more and turn it up a little bit more. We have some big things coming up and some big shows, and I'm feeling pretty good and I'm feeling pretty spry. And until I can get up that Monday morning and go to work, I'm gonna probably let it loose as much as I can in the next couple of months.
That's awesome. I like Damien. We wrestled in a couple different places together. Besides Broadway, he did a small stint in SICW, but then we did was it Wrestling Over Everything? Whoa, yeah, WOE. Did it there. I tell you what, though, I never understood his little catchphrase that he was saying. What was he? God, at Broadway, he always used to say something, but I can't remember what it was. But I could never understand what he was talking about.
He's a natural heel too. Right? Damon's a natural. So I have the same thing with him when I sit there and we talk, and I listen to him talk, cut his promos. He shares with me a lot, and yeah, he's going to be somebody that people have to deal with. He's big. Cool. Yeah, he's big. He's fast, and he likes to talk. If there's somebody, he likes to talk. So yeah, he likes to talk to the crowd. So they're going to get a real kick out of him when he comes back.
Yeah, I wish I could remember it.
I never got to work.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I never got to work with him. I met him 2 or 3 times, and he was always a very respectful, nice guy in the locker room.
Yeah, that's his thing. Like he has an old school feel, as young as he is. Like he has a respect for the roots, and that goes a long way with somebody his age. I see. If he was to get serious, like the way he talks to me now, if he stay healthy and stay focused and get with a good company, I wouldn't put past seeing this guy in the next couple of years be able to do this full time somewhere. He's that talented. He really is.
Yeah, I know.
He's
Broadway. What's he been up to? What's he been doing? Because I haven't seen him. He
got jaded with the Broadway situation.
Yeah.
Just
That's what I was just going to bring up. I knew
they weren't using him to his potential. He just got tired.
Yeah, they were promising him. I mean, I was still in the locker room. No, I think he, that happened. I was still in the locker room when he was given promises.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got out of that locker room, and then I found out that those promises never happened.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, there's different eras to Broadway. You know, it was a cool old school era when I came through the first time. And then, you know, Bobby came, so that was kind of cool. We had, you know, people I can work with. Then we both left. Then I just came back by myself. And it was a different era because there was one kid in there that brought all of his friends in. And then you start noticing all of us that been there forever start dropping away. Not that we couldn't been used, but the locker room was changing and people just didn't want to deal with the locker room. And just a few of us was trying to hang on. And then, you know, this last time around, you know, they pretty much cut all ties with with a lot of us. So
yeah, they
So I came back for Tony Senior, so just to do a couple post him. So I was fine leaving after that. Came back for the respect thing, and then I was good being gone.
We were too old. I'm too old to deal with immature attitudes.
right.
You know, I don't. It wasn't fun at Broadway when I went back, and I worked there a couple of times as Jason Chaos. Yeah, I had a couple of matches. I actually worked Damien down there a couple of times. Yeah, I did, and it wasn't fun. The locker room, the pettiness, the me attitude. I didn't get into wrestling for that. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have egos. I'm not one to really ego bust. So if you're proud of yourself, fine, but don't try to hold other people down to make that point.
Yeah, don't be a Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, let your work. I mean, wrestling, pro wrestling is abused like that. I feel a lot in these locker rooms. Guys don't know when to step out the way. That was one of the reasons I stepped out of the way at Dynamo. When I was down there wrestling with those guys really respected me. They really loved me. But they're 20 years my senior, and there is no way I was going to be able to keep up with some 20-year-olds. I had no interest in it. I wished them the best, and that's why I stepped away. I stayed in my lane. I know where my strengths lie at, and I'm not one to stop somebody else from being great because of my ego. My ego doesn't work like that. I like knowing that the people I'm with look good. I like knowing that everybody I work with isn't just there to make themselves look good, but look to make the people they're with look good as well. And that's the point of being in the show. I didn't get that down there. As a matter of fact, I remember the night I decided to leave. I was upstairs talking to Mark Bland, and he wasn't even working then. He was just talking, and he said something to Keith, and Keith turned around and screamed at him for no reason.
Wow.
No reason at all. And yeah. And I know Mark. Mark was down at Broadway when I started wrestling. He was down there training. He was Liquid Ice there. He was down there training with Blackheart and me and everything too. So I considered Mark a friend. I still consider Mark a friend. I can consider Vincent a friend. He's not everybody's cup of tea, but I don't mind the man at all. Yeah, when Keith yelled at him like that, I couldn't imagine me standing there letting somebody yell at me for that place, like for Broadway.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, no. He almost killed it for me then too. But like I said, if I wouldn't have known Vincent, I wouldn't have ended up where I was. I probably just would have stopped wrestling altogether.
I had to break up a situation just like that too. And it was with Ben Simon and Mr. Smith. Ben Simon was just a ring announcer, and boy, Mr. Smith let him have it. I mean, the point where Simon was in tears, and I just got in between the two. I was like, "There's no reason for this. You need to fucking leave." And I have respect for Mr. Smith, Keith Smith. He's
absolutely,
nothing. Other than that, that's the only time I would ever say anything bad about it. And I don't even know what the situation was. All I know is I was sitting there, and it wasn't right, and I had to interfere. Even after Mr. Smith, and we all have bad days, so it could have just been a bad day, bad night.
Smith is passionate. He's very passionate about this. He's third generation, or is Kiefer's third generation?
Junior's the third generation.
Junior. Keith, yeah, he had a lot to do with training me when I was at GCW. He gave me a lot of that tough love. So I have a lot of respect for him. He's prone to fly off the handle. He knows that. Everybody that knows him knows that. If you know when dealing with him that you push his button, he'll let you know.
Right.
And maybe Mark had pushed his button. I mean, maybe Ben had done something. I wasn't privileged to the other side of the conversation. I just know it just rubbed me wrong that I didn't think it was necessary, and I just took myself out of the equation.
Even in high school and junior high, I was always the taller person, and I was always the one that if you got picked on, you would come get me, and then I would pick on that person. I would always get in fights, always get in trouble. Been suspended, been homeschooled for a little bit, just because of that situations. But my father always told me, the golden rule, make sure they hit you first, then you have all control. Or if you were picking on a bully, my father was okay with that too. So, even if I got in trouble in school, there was no trouble at home, as long as those criteria were met,
Yeah.
But I'm still that to this day. If someone younger or littler or someone I know can't stand up to that other person, I'll always try to interfere and interject myself. It's just who I am on that. But when I seen him crying, I was like, no, I got to stop this shit.
Yeah.
And later, Ben thanked me because it was in the locker room. Every motherfucker heard it, but I was the only one that stood up for him and de-escalated the situation.
Yeah.
But,
and we sometimes people need to step in and help other people out because it happens more often than it needs to. I'm not privileged to it now. I've alleviated everything on my Facebook that is tied to anybody that works outside of our company. That's how I stopped. Really? Yeah, I don't. When I said I don't do much on Facebook anymore as far as social media, I don't. I don't. I'm going to start again, but I haven't. I just stepped away because the atmosphere was toxic. Like I didn't get why. It was hard for me to understand why people were talking to each other like that. When you have to go to your 9 to 5 the next day. I mean, yes, I love being a professional wrestler. I'm going to be this until I can't be this person anymore. But I'm not going to berate somebody else and doing the same thing I'm doing because maybe they haven't trained like I have, or they haven't had the opportunities that I have. I don't have that ego to not help but try to hinder, and I've seen it.
Right.
People feed off just using other wrestlers to get where they're going, and it just wasn't a good look. It really isn't, So I'm just glad I don't have to deal with that situation anymore.
Right. I think it's kind of cool that you're thinking about branching out. Even SICW, there's other companies I wrestle for. Some I haven't wrestled for much this year like I would want to, but I'm also getting to that age where I don't want to sit in a car for 4 hours. Otherwise I would be doing a lot more.
Yeah.
I used to have a job where I had to work most weekends, so it hindered me doing it. But I've had this current 9 to 5 that gives me the weekends off. So when I first got the job, I was at New Breed, all the time, ACW all the time, and now I'm getting to the point where, I'm going to slow down on that just because I don't, the 4-hour drive to some place to wrestle and then the 4-hour drive back.
I did that yesterday for my son's tournament. I'm still tired from it. 4 hours, 15 minutes to Cowell, Illinois.
I just don't want. I'm not going to spread myself too thin because where I do go, I want to be able to give those fans everything I got. So the whole journeyman thing for me, with what young wrestlers, where we got to work everywhere, we got to get our name out there, we got to. I don't, like I said, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I'm planning on expanding this much for this summer, just so my kids can come and see me, so they can come to the shows and see their dad wrestle and stuff like that. Because they have.
You got a baker's dozen, right?
Oh yeah. I'll have the older ones in town this summer, so I'll have my son, who's 17, my other daughter, who's 11, and the youngest one, who's 9. Plus the 2 I have living with me, so I'll have 5.
So you got a total of 5? I thought there was more than 5.
Oh, I have 10.
That's right. Okay. I thought I was getting there.
The other ones aren't in school, so they do what they want to do.
Maybe I'll have to venture out with you, put that breed vest back on.
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, you looked good in it. I mean, you really good in that breed vest. I was like, yeah, that's something we might need to look into.
Nate, I'll send you a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to need that.
All right, so let me ask you about your friend, Damien. He last time I seen him in a wrestling ring, he was more heelish. Are you thinking about tagging with him? Are you guys agendas meshed?
So it would be hard to rein him in from his natural personality. So I don't know. I don't know. Well, I would hate to deprive the fans of him at his best. And
so what you're saying is you're going to turn eventually and go to the dark side. You hear it now first on the Square Ring podcast. No,
you never know what will happen in this industry, in this game. Things change. Things do change. I'm happy where I'm at, though. I'm gonna try and get Damien to come on over and see things my way for a little bit, but we'll see what we can do.
We'll see who wins.
Yeah, he gets used to he gets to get along with the fans like I do. You never know; he might change his mind.
I'd like to see him in our locker room.
I'd love to see him in our locker room. I'll bring him. He's gonna be there on the 13th. He's gonna be at the show, so yeah, he's looking forward to that too. He's my plus one.
Oh, there you go. I mean, let's talk about the show. It's everyone's childhood. Everyone that we brought on here is said the same thing, that they're looking forward to because it's their idols.
Mm-hmm.
and there's a few on the show that I have never met, so it's going to be great. Who are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Enzo. I'm looking forward to seeing Enzo. It's because he's my wife's favorite wrestler.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my wife doesn't watch wrestling. She's not a wrestling fan at all. It was that and New Day. I was watching. I was watching Monday night one time, and him and Cass were on TV. And she walked by, and she heard his opening monologue about being the realest guy in the room. And she was, from that moment on, she was hooked. I mean, she was dead on. Enzo and Cass was the only reason she came into the room when she heard their music hit. And she would only watch them, and she would watch New Day because the girls like the way they dance and blew the horn. So
Xavier Woods is super talented.
Amazingly talented, man. I mean,
very smart too.
Yes, very smart.
I say now it doesn't get talked about enough. That guy was wrestling TNA full time and going to college to get his master's in psychology.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Those are the stories that the fans don't really get a chance to. They don't appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he went and got his, but he's still where he is now because he loves his industry.
Right.
Yeah. He's an amazing.
It's a mix for me. I want to meet Greg Gagne just because his family's heritage in the wrestling. But I'm also a kid at heart, so I want to meet Tugboat.
Yeah.
$1 Million Man. He's always great. He's always the best guy to talk to. He's been in our locker room a few times. Yeah.
That's something you don't get from every legend. Like DiBiase legit seems like he wants to talk to you.
Yeah. Nice. I will tell you who I am looking forward to meeting because I saw a lot of his work in Japan with Brody. Is Stan Hansen. I mean,
I would love to reconnect with him. He was brought into the locker room a few years ago. Very nice guy. And it's funny with Stan because he wears glasses. And yeah, and
not in the ring.
Not in the ring, and that was half of his problem. So when he connected with you, he wanted to make sure he connected. And so he had to hit hard because he couldn't. He'll tell you too. He is so blind without his glasses that all of his lariats, all of his kicks, everything had to put in there extremely hard, so he knew he made contact.
I remember watching him in Brody in Japan and Gordy in that run. And Lord, I know that I've never ducked out of a move. I take it as good as I give it. But Jesus Christ, some of those old Stan Hansen lariats, woo! I take my hat off to the guys that took them.
Yeah, that match that Stan had with Vader in Japan, where he actually popped out Vader's eye. He didn't even realize. He didn't even realize it because he couldn't fucking see Vader's eye. He couldn't see the detail in his face to see something had happened. So he was just going on like nothing was wrong.
Yeah, he kept going. I remember that match came across my feed probably a week or so ago when Vader popped his eye back in. Right. And I remember seeing it like, damn, it looked like it was his eye. Oh, it was. My God, man.
On our podcast channel for the month of May. Our podcast channel for the month of May, I have Dory and Terry Funk and Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody. I have that match for our 3 Minutes Classics.
Man, I mean, when they say they don't build them like that anymore, they don't build them like that anymore.
Yeah.
And this one, I watched, putting the matches together, I watched it many times, and I just, at the end, I laughed every single time. Because Stan is just throwing everybody out of the ring. He doesn't care who it is.
Yeah.
He's just grabbing somebody and chucking them.
Hmm.
I remember the incident. Was that him and Gordy? Where he was running through the ring. Somebody had stiffed him, I think, and he was chasing somebody through the ring, and he just kept beating the crap out the guy. And I think Gordy had to come pull him off of him because he wouldn't. He wouldn't. He was pissed. You could see it in his face. He was chasing the guy through the crowd like people were. It was like Godzilla running through the crowd. People were screaming and running away. And Stan's kicking the crap out this guy. The guys, you can see the guy's literally is in his face. You could see the fear. Like, what the hell?
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, I remember.
They
That was good.
they say the people in Japan, it was an honor for them to get hit.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You see videos all the time of Brody swinging his chain, you know, the long ass chain. He's swinging it in the crowd, and people are just scattering.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that happening in today's day and age of wrestling. I mean, the lawsuits would be just left and right.
You'd get canceled. You'd get canceled real quick. You would, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, I don't think that would last. Not at all. It was just a different era.
Oh yeah, I mean
That era there, man. Oh, that's when. I guess that's that John Wayne era.
That's a damn good way to describe it.
That was the John Wayne influenced era of wrestling, where guys were pretty close to punching you in the face if you got in the ring with them. If you didn't know what you were doing, you were probably going to get punched in the face.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Seen a lot on Wrestling the Chase. What did I see? Who said Bobby Eaton gave somebody? He threw him out the ring. I don't know what he did, but he threw him out the ring. He was wrestling the chase, and the guy he cleared the second rope. Like, he didn't touch the rope at all. Like, it was forced. Like, he threw him out, and then the guy hit the mat. Then he gave him a suplex on the concrete, and you could see this guy splat when he hit the floor. I was like, what did he do to deserve that? Like, oh my God! So somebody he was in the back talking about something, and he did the wrong thing because he got some receipts on that. I don't know what he did, but he better not do it again.
Brutus the Barber Beefcake is the other one, I think, or Buff too. It's a kind of tie, but those are three of the ones. Yeah, it's no lie, I was a WWF kid. I didn't switch over to WCW until I was actually a worker, because you realize the difference once you start getting in the business on who are wrestlers and who are entertainers. But just Brutus and Hulk Hogan being together in that tag team era for a while, and and then Tugboat. I wish Tonta. It was his name, Earthquake. Yeah, I wish he was still around because I would have loved to meet him. I think he was really cool. But I agree with you on Mr. Perfect. I wish he was around. I wish Rick Rude was around because those guys, those guys were really workers and they knew their craft very well.
Yeah, I don't think there's never going to be another Mr. Perfect. Kurt Hennig was one of those rare wrestlers that made you look amazing in the ring.
Oh yeah.
I remember him taking a stunner from Stone Cold where he did a backflip. I mean, the way, Kurt, him spitting the gum out and slapping into the crowd.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was a joy to watch. I would have loved to talk to him.
There's a great story about Mr. Perfect. He was a heel at this point, and he come walking out, and the whole crowd is booing him except for one guy is cheering him on. And regardless of what he would do, like little marks or little hints that he could smack him, the guy was just cheering him on. And so he gets up in the ring and he goes to spit the gum out. He spit it, hit it, and smacked the guy right on his forehead. And the guy started, booing him. And Mr. Perfect goes, now it's perfect. Because now everyone hated him.
Everyone.
Perfect.
Another guy I used to like was Shane Douglas. I was a fan of Shane Douglas. His whole
I think Shane doesn't get enough credit.
I don't think he does either. He really doesn't. Like his whole run, when he was the franchise, he was the flagship of many a company that succeeded with him as the champion.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's lost. His name is sort of lost when it comes up, and I'm sure there's a reason. I don't know why. I wasn't privileged to it. But yeah,
Well, I mean, that's one that's worked everywhere. WCW, WWE. It didn't really pan out for him in WCW, and then the DX boys pretty much all downgraded his membership down in WWE at the time because he was part of the clique, and then something must have happened where they just they booted him out and never looked back.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, like I said, he was a really good, really strong worker. I watched him a lot. I watched a lot of what he did, a lot of his mic work, a lot of his swagger, as you could say. I picked up on when I first started wrestling and trying to, especially his wrestling type. He was aggressive. Like he was there. You knew he was there. He was an intimidating force. Yeah, and he was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up, and I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
Modern day era wrestling, there's one guy that I see that doesn't get enough credit, and he can make you look golden. It's Dolph Ziggler.
And I'm glad you said that because he sort of is the only person I know of that I would put into the category with Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
Just on his in-ring ability, Dolph can work with anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a champion maker. He makes champions. That's what he do.
The only thing that I'm glad to see that, like, Mr. Perfect got it in AWA where he was the champion. But Intercontinental Champion was the only ceiling that he was able to meet in WWF. But Dolph Ziggler has at least been the heavyweight champion for WWE. I think that's the only difference is they gave him the ball once. I don't think they're going to give it to him again. And it's sad. But I just watched an interview with him over the weekend, honestly. And he was talking about taking kicks from Shawn Michaels to super kicks. And he was talking about taking the RKO from Randy Orton. And what he said that like him and Shawn Michaels had this long, man, I can't, it's brain fogging me now. But it was a long run where those two were going against each other. And so every night he tried to come up with some other way to sell Shawn Michaels' super kick that no one's ever seen before. And that was his whole goal, was just to be able to take the same finish from the previous night, but just up it and do it even better. And for Shawn Michaels, and for Randy Orton when he would take the RKO. I mean, he's the modern day Mr. Perfect. That's the best way to say it, yeah.
Yeah, I said he would be the only person I would say that I see working now that has a Mr. Perfect vibe as far as his in-ring ability. One of my favorite wrestlers in the ECW days was Mikey Whipwreck. Mikey was a smaller guy, not a lot of flash, but could work anybody. And he was a champion maker. He was that guy in the locker room that worked 3 matches that night, and he made guys look good. Like that was his thing. Mikey Whipwreck. I don't think Mikey gets enough praise for that whole ECW run because I don't think he did much anything outside of ECW.
No, I think he came in for I think the first one night stand or the first invasion, I think. But he was soon gone after that. But yeah, I mean that's another guy who, especially in ECW, never won a match for the longest time. He would just get his ass handed to him, but make that guy look great, each and every time. And that's why when he won the championship, everyone was crazy. It's like, holy shit, Mikey Whipwreck just won the championship.
Yeah, and that's the feel you want from your crowd. I mean, that's really good, a really good promotion. The crowd, the fans wanted that. The fans, they wanted that, and that's what got him where he was. Another guy I think that didn't get his props is Shelton Benjamin.
Yes, gold standard.
Yeah, I mean, he's a collegiate wrestler. I mean, the man is an amazing athlete.
Collegiate wrestler that used to beat up on Brock Lesnar in the practice.
Yeah. Like when I heard those stories, I was like, man, this dude, he probably took one of the best RKOs I've ever seen. If it wasn't, was it the 360? I think that Evan did, or he did the shooting star that Randy caught him in.
Evan Bourne did the shooting star.
Yeah, that one and the one Shelton Benjamin took. He did the springboard off the ropes, and Randy caught him in the RKO.
He did that with Shawn Michaels too.
Yeah,
that super kick right from the top of the ropes.
Super kick from the springboard. Yeah, he's like I said, he's a champion maker. Every locker room, every promotion has that guy. I'm
so glad that he's back.
Yes.
Because for the longest time he wasn't doing anything. I mean, he might have been doing some independence, but for the longest time, he was not. And I like that whole Kurt Angle group that they had going on, because it was Shelton, it was Haas, yes. I really thought him and his brother, before his brother passed away, I really thought they would just go everywhere, because that was a great tag team.
They were.
But even when when he was running around with Kurt Angle, him and Benjamin I thought was great. Haas nowadays, though, he doesn't look too well. He wasn't looking too good. If you ever seen him post anything on social media, he looked pretty strung out. But supposedly he might be making a comeback. It looks like he's putting on. I mean, he was skinny, so it looks like he's putting on some weight, and hopefully he's kind of changed things around. I'm not saying there was drugs used, but the speculation was there was drugs used. But man, he looked terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he's turning things.
Yeah, it happens, especially in this business when you travel as much as you do. When you get up there like that, you find ways to, I guess, cope with what you got going on. And drugs are always a way to cope, especially when you have the money to afford them, I guess.
All right, so let's get back to May 13th. Do you have a match on that day?
Yes. Is me, Curtis. We're tagging against.
6-man, isn't it?
Yeah, we have a 6-man.
So is it you, Curtis, and Gary versus? No?
It's not Gary. Me, Curtis, because I know it's Helms and the LA Connection.
LA Hustlers?
LA Hustlers. LA Hustlers and Helms versus me, Curtis, and somebody else. I can't remember who the third person is.
I thought it was Gary with you guys.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Was it Gary?
I think it was Night Train, yeah.
Curtis was just talking about this last week.
Well, that makes it better then. I love tagging with Gary.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be a good match.
Yeah.
Because you know the rules. That's why you like
I've been working. Yeah, you know the rules. As long as you know the rules.
That's awesome. So are you in the Battle Royal as well?
I am. I've always been a fan of that Bruiser Brody. I remember I was out one time watching you guys at one of the Bruiser Brody Memorials, Battle Royals. I was in the crowd. I was a fan. I think SB was there at that time. And me saying, I'm going to get in there one day. I'm going to make it to that Battle Royal.
Well, I'll be honored to throw you out of it when I defend my cup. So
that's what I was waiting for.
You have more things to worry about than me right now.
I'll say that. It's all right.
Man, that Battle Royal is going to be insane, though.
Yeah,
you got I think it's 4 wrestlers from the School of Funk, Dory's school. That's coming up. You got
I was trying to think of Dory brought a wrestler up to SICW before that I got to wrestle, and he was his champion for a while. It was Luke something. Luke Spencer, maybe?
I don't know.
But the point being that he trains some hella good wrestlers, and whoever he brings up is going to, make an impact in that match.
Oh, definitely.
I'm absolutely sure.
You
got the Funk name behind you. You got to you have to perform.
No, I remember Herb. He asked, he's like, "Would you be interested in working around with Funk? Come up the day before of the show." I'm like, "You don't even have to ask. I'm already there."
Yeah. I mean, that's not a question. Is that an honest question?
It's like, you just had to tell me it's in the building.
Yeah.
But there's
the Battle Royal, has that been stayed at 30 wrestlers, or are there more?
I don't know how many, because there's been so many people wanting to join the Battle Royal. Mm-hmm. So many that he can't have everyone all at once this time. So it's going to be like special rules to this Battle Royal. Basically, I don't know how many they're going to start out with. I'm thinking 10. And then once one person gets thrown over, that's going to allow another person to come in. Which, to me, I'm thinking, Bobby, you better hope you're not in the first 10. Because those are going to be the ones. It's going to be a long night. Because the ones that come in, just like the Royal Rumble, they're going to be the fresh man. So it's going to be hard to defend that if you're within the first 10.
Let's face it. Since I already have it, I'm going to be a big target.
You have a point.
There's people coming up from Texas going to be in that. People from New Breed's going to be in it.
From the West Coast.
From the West Coast. There's what's Harley's group? WLW. There's some guys coming in from that. So it's going to be crazy.
I'm punching them all in the face too. Every last one. I'm gonna look forward to punching.
I would love to say Bobby's going to win it, but my bet is Luke Bushwhacker. He's my vote. He's in it.
Wait a minute.
Luke's going to be
declared for the Battle Royal. Yes.
With a bushwhacker, that is amazing.
I believe the guy from the NWA is going to be in it. Don't ask me his name.
Silas.
Silas, yeah. I do believe he's going to be in the Battle Royal too, so you can mix it up with an NWA guy.
Well, I have my favorite who I would like to mix it up with, but I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Who's that?
Tyrus. I have a thing for Tyrus.
This guy?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that
guy. Guy's wrestling buddy.
Tyrus is pretty cool.
When they came to the show, I watched him. So he dropped somebody on a dive, and he's not the best athlete at his size. I know guys his size who are better workers, in my opinion. He fits a bill, but I know guys that could fit that bill too. So I sort of, I can't say I don't know the man and dislike him personally, but I know guys personally who I know deserve that spot, who put the time and the effort in for that spot. And
So
that's
you're
how I
saying
usually look at it.
you're mad at him for being the NWA champion?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I gotta say, I know guys who have rolled that highway, who've been putting the work in, who would be good in that position too.
Yeah,
The
right.
one thing I will give him is he has a big natural charisma.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't know the man personally. I wouldn't want you to put him in a wrestling ring with me.
So it's kind of odd. I was able to meet him. It was NWA 74. He was just mingling out in the crowd. This was before the show was going on. And, he's not even that much taller than me. So, I mean, he looks bigger and bigger on TV. I guess it's him being on that ring. He's kind of, I hate to say it's kind of odd looking because he's got like a hunch.
Yeah.
And he has no neck. So it's hunch with no neck. Other than that, he is freaking awesome to talk to. Anyone who wanted to talk to him, he was open to anyone coming up and talking. Didn't have to, he was just in the crowd, and this was before he was the champion.
I've never heard anybody say anything bad about him personally. My opinions are based solely on his in-ring ability, as far as that's concerned. But I've never heard anybody say anything bad about him personally. I've always heard good things about like fans talking to him or how he interacts with people. He seems like a pretty cool guy.
There is a couple people in NWA that I think would work great as EC3's there now, and he I mean the dude's got like 0.05 body fat on him. I mean that guy is just freaked out, but I think he can run the ball with it really well.
Yeah.
I actually think, and this is on an entertainment spectrum. When Matt, who was the guy in WWE? Woo woo woo.
Matt
Cardona.
Yeah.
Who?
Cardona.
Yeah. He had won that belt and then he got injured right away, so he had to give that belt back. Cardona. That's what I was meaning. Is that what you guys said? Cardona?
Yeah.
All right, so I think entertainment-wise, and to bring the NWA up a notch, I think it would have been great if he would have ran it for a while. Only because to me, the NWA is not quite what it used to be. The Corgan era. I mean, he's got great future plans and ideas, but it's different. It's not like a WWE or a WCW. To me, it actually feels like it's just not even a notch above us, but kind of to the side. I think our locker room can go in there and pretty much dominate.
Does he still have future plans? I heard he was looking to sell.
So he's got future plans. I say that because he's wanting to go international now. So they've been booking a lot of international shows and traveling.
Does he know that NWA is national, not international? It's not INWA.
They have that international heavyweight championship now. So
they have 25 titles.
He's probably bringing back more, but
what do you think about them bringing Big Gold back? Big Gold
all
back.
25 titles are now going to have an international in front of it, so there's going to be 50 titles with 30 wrestlers.
You talking about WWE bringing that Big Gold belt back?
Big Gold back.
All right, so here's my thing with that. Cody Rhodes better not get his hands on it. I like Cody Rhodes. And I liked the story that they were trying to tell. But since they didn't let him beat Roman, and they just give him that belt and let him, beat whoever needs to beat to get that belt is still tainted because he was never able to beat Roman Reigns.
Yep, and that's exactly what everybody else would feel like too. Like you made the title for Cody.
Right. And that's, give it to someone else, let them carry the ball for a while, and then let Cody finish the story that way. If you're not going to let him be on the same program as Roman. But he better not get the belt right away because it's just going to make... And the whole purpose of the story is that drive to beat the heavyweight champion. And he ain't beating a heavyweight champion to get the belt. He's beating someone his equal or less to get the belt. He needs to beat the man.
Becky Lynch?
It would take a lot to dethrone. Yeah, I would like to see him fight Becky Lynch. That would be interesting. That would definitely be interesting. My money would be
on off on Bronco Buster.
Yeah. Speaking of Bronco Busters, Victoria didn't do the Bronco Buster, did she?
No, Widow's Peak.
Widow's Peaks, that's right. I wonder if I could convince her. I don't know. She probably wouldn't do the Bronco Buster. Copyright.
Depends how nice she talks to her.
Victoria's coming to the show on the 13th, and yeah, she was extremely sexy. She still is.
That promo she cut talking about coming to May 13th. I think she looked even better there with her glasses.
Yeah, she didn't. She didn't disappoint. Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm looking forward to meeting you.
Hey, there was for a time there was going to be two girls coming. There was going to be her, and there was going to be Candice Michelle. Eventually Candice either backed out of it or it didn't fall through. But yeah, it was supposed to be her as well. So
I think we ended up with the better one.
I agree. I agree totally.
So man, the countdown's beginning, right? Today's the last day of May. Last day of April.
Oh, we already missed it.
Yeah, damn it. So the countdown's beginning, so it's gonna get crazy.
It definitely is. This is going to be the show for a wrestling fan in St. Louis.
Yes.
It's going to be the show for wrestlers. It's everything show.
I would be disappointed if I didn't work for SICW. I would be there. If I would, if I had another company that I was booked for, I probably wouldn't go because I would want to be here at this show and see these guys.
Another company that's trying to go head to head with it. That's probably going to fail.
How absolutely so now that how absolutely childish is that? I mean,
it seems to be their bread and butter recently.
Yeah, okay, but even the flyer, when the
two companies are trying to honor somebody, you think you would just let that man be honored.
Yeah, and that goes back to my whole ego and the personal. Make me look at me. The whole flyer, the flyer itself.
He is a relative of the person we're trying to honor. You would really think he wants his relative to be honored.
I'm speechless when I sit there and think about, like, why? I mean, why?
I hope Tony was a great guy. He gave us our first starts, and, like, Tony, like, helped kick a lot of careers off. Like, let him be honored.
Let him be honored. Let him be honored by people that knew him.
Like, and that's not saying he didn't know. Freaking let him be, like, honored in both places. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, he touched a lot of careers.
He did. And
I'm not I don't know if you heard, and I'm not accusing any particular person, but the hotel has received phone calls. Some of the vendors that are going to be there that night have received phone calls saying, you guys are never going to get paid. SICW is not going to pay you. They're known to skip out. Yeah, I'm not going to name any names.
No, by who? I've never heard of her not paying somebody.
And so here's the funny thing. When they called the hotel and told the hotel that, the hotel has already been paid. They've already been paid, and we haven't even had the show yet. And they've already got their money. And for them to call and say, you guys are never going to get your money, they're going to do the show and run off. Do you think Herb Simmons would be part of anything that they would just skip out on fucking paying?
These are grown men acting like this.
The promoters
that are an annual event, so why would he skip out on anybody when he wants it to be an annual event?
Exactly.
The promoters that you hear of skipping out on payments have not been doing this for over 50 years. Nowhere near.
They're definitely not Herb Simmons.
Right. But, yeah, I didn't know if you guys knew that or not, but when I actually got the phone call, it was a good and a bad phone call. I got a phone call from Nick Ridenhour, and he was telling me, hey, watch SmackDown this Friday night. We're going to have 4 commercial spots. It's going to be great. Oh, and by the way, can you believe that these fuckers are trying to do this to us? Like,
how does he think running a promotion the same day he's going to get anybody?
Anybody?
Well, so Broadway has a crowd that will always be there. So he shouldn't, in all honesty, he should not even worry about us, because Soulard has that crowd that's built into the bar scene down there, and then they just bar hop. Oh, wrestling! Let's watch some bar hop. And that's that crowd. You know, if we get 1 or 2 of those,
good crowd too. There's nothing wrong with that crowd. Like, I enjoyed working for that crowd. You know?
Yeah, I loved working for the crowd.
But we're after a different crowd. He can keep that crowd. You know, if they do come over and enjoy the show, our show, you know, so be it. But we're not after to crush him or anything like that. Hell, from the very beginning, there was a chance that we were going to work with them again. You know, before this year started, you know, Herb asked Little Tony, hey, what days are you running? I can run the opposite if you give me your dates. He never gave Herb the dates. Herb set his dates, sent him off. So, you know, he could have changed his dates, or, I mean, there ain't nothing much else to say except for I expect a very big crowd on May 13th.
Absolutely.
I mean, and with, we're going to have...
what did I see the other day? There's only 12 seats or 10 seats in the first 2 rows remaining?
Yeah.
Right, and you had to pay an upgrade fee of $17 to get those seats. So, I mean, that's probably why those are still, you know, remaining. But, you know, that was before the commercials on Friday. So who knows how many seats are actually remaining for just the, you know, the first 2 rows. But we're going to be on Channel 2. We're going to be on Channel 4. You know, the news is going to bring us into it. So we're going to have specials on that. So, I mean, I'm expecting it's just a huge crowd. You know, Teddy Long has been doing his podcast for a while now, and for the last 2 months, he's been plugging our podcast. I mean, our podcast. He's been plugging May 13th. Jim Cornette has been plugging May 13th.
Nice.
There's also JBL and it's the guy who's being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Earl Hebner.
Jared Briscoe. Briscoe and JBL have a podcast, and they've been plugging it on their podcast.
That's nice.
And we have there are tens and tens of people.
Yeah, I mean, everyone.
Who was it? There was recently something posted. Someone else that plans on coming that does a podcast. They mentioned our show.
I think that was the same guy that does it with Teddy Long.
Was it?
Because they're coming as a group, I think. And they're actually going to do their podcast live.
Nice.
Rick Ruby's group is going to do their podcast there.
Okay.
And they've been, announcing it on their podcast. But yeah, I mean, this is, we've been saying it for a long time. This is the biggest show in St. Louis's history. You know,
hands down.
yeah,
Hands down,
I mean,
the biggest show I've heard or seen about in a long ever in this area. And I'm honored to be on it.
There was, like 10 years ago, there was a fan fest that wasn't really publicized because I was a worker and I didn't even know about it. But there was a fan fest that was here in St. Louis. It had, and I would have loved to gone to it if I would have just heard about it, but there was no wrestling show attached to it. And they didn't even have like a ring in the room. It was literally just tables, and I think it was like 20 wrestlers, but one of them was Rowdy Piper. And if I would have known about it, I would have been. But it wasn't publicized. No one freaking knew about it, and barely anyone showed up. And it went belly up. It was a guy who was he used to do. It wasn't a promotion per se, but he used to do fan fests in different cities. And it was something like Legends of the Ring, or it was something like that, where he would just pop up and have like 20 or 25 wrestling legends that you get. But he didn't, and the whole company went belly up because he just didn't do it right. He didn't attach a wrestling show to it. He didn't attach something like the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame to it. He wasn't inducting anybody. He was just popping up maybe 3 or 4 weeks before the date. Did looks like the least amount of advertising for it, and expected it to work, and it didn't. So we haven't had anything like that since then. I guess everyone's been kind of scared too, but Herb's not scared, man. He looks like he's bringing out everything. I mean, he's told us if this is if this is a really great show, he wants to do it once a year. He wants to make it annual. So I mean,
with just that poster you dropped by the store for me to put up, I can't even count how many people talk about it and ask. The most recent one was today before I left. A young lady asked, "Is Roddy Piper going to be there?" And she goes, "That looks like him." I go, "No, that's not Roddy Piper. I don't think he's going to be coming back from the dead to show up." Sorry.
Yeah. If Roddy shows up, it's a whole nother type of party.
That's a Halloween show coming up, yeah?
Yeah.
I have a Walking Dead shirt that says this is my Walker killing shirt.
You can take care of that because I'm going to be gone.
I don't know. I still might show up for something like that.
Yeah.
He knows how
to run faster, and I'll watch you, and I'll be good.
Yeah. The slowest one is the one that's going to get bit, so I'm riding.
Hey, so it's come to the time. We've had a great time on here. We've gone longer, I think, than we have in a while. Except for Herb, but Herb can talk forever, and it's all great.
For Herb.
Mr. Breed, we all appreciate that you were able to jump on here tonight.
I appreciate the invite, gentlemen. I had a blast.
Hey,
Good time.
you can come back on anytime you feel the need to or want to. Maybe we'll do this after the 13th, and you can talk about your victory.
Yep.
I really love doing this just because I like to, I've known you forever, but for the life of me, I couldn't tell you that you had 30 cage fights.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the things you get to learn about your peers that I love the most.
I didn't know you wrestled in high school. I want to wrestle you in the ring now. Like, not do it. I just want to do some amateur wrestling, some rolling around.
I am too old for that. The reason I tell people all the time, like, did you used to fight, huh? I say, yeah. So can you still fight? I say, absolutely, but I don't fight for free.
There you go. But yeah, so we're gonna wind it down. Just want to tell you again, thank you for coming on. It's been great. It's been a great show because damn, we've gone 2.5. Well, you came in a little bit before 9, so we'll give you 2.25 hours, which is awesome. I think we could still talk for another hour, but people don't know it's actually 11 o'clock our time. We tape this early. We normally put it out a couple days later, and I'll hit you up. Just be active in your social media for the rest of this week so we can attach it to you, and then you can spread it. And I'm sure you'll see it everywhere because I'm pretty good, and Nathan's pretty good at posting it on everything. I don't know. Bobby is just too busy, I think. But
I post it once a week. I see you guys already have it on all the other pages, so I just reposted my own page.
But again, sir, thank you. And I guess from everyone on the Squared Ring podcast, if you like the content, let us know who you want us to bring on. Please like, share, subscribe. Subscribing and viewing is a must if you can. Definitely share it so we can get out to the masses. We just finally broke 100 subscribers, and then, we've been kind of struggling to get up to 100, and all of a sudden, bam, bam, bam. So we actually, we're going to award someone with some free merch. So it's going to be great, and we might do it for the next, I'm sure this podcast is going to get us to the 200 mark. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll probably
when I put the tag on it.
Subscribing.
Yeah, all of his kids just need to subscribe and we'll hit it. So
if I can get my kids and their friends on board, we'll have about 1,000.
Oh, there we go.
That's good.
But
okay, Jason's watched. Here recently, what we've been doing is we've been doing a kind of a joke entry for everybody that comes on, so watch for yours, too.
I will be watching.
All right, sir. Thank you for coming on. And from the Squared Ring podcast, you guys have a good night. Until next week, we'll see who else we can bring on here. But thank you. All right.